This case is more than just saving your reputation. It's more than us just winning. It's about preserving freedom.
We tend to think of wages as somehow different than prices, but wages are really a price of your labor.
It results from how productive the worker is and the price of the output that the person is making.
Minimum wage workers, along with anyone else, are people who sell their labor, and employers are the people who buy the labor. And so there's an ongoing negotiation between the sellers of labor and the buyers of labor, and that's how an agreement upon a wage comes about.
Now, in some ways that seems unfair because it has nothing to do with how hard you work. And in fact, some of the people that work the hardest have the least productivity and the lowest wages precisely because it's harder to work with a shovel than it is with a bulldozer.
And what's on trial here is the notion that government intervention is the best tool to eradicate this.
Well, imagine that you're a store owner and some fellow walks in, and perhaps because you've seen him before, you've seen him around outside, you're actually a little bit worried that he's going to try to shoplift. Well, this is not the sort of person that you think, that's who I really want to hire. But that's really a prejudice. That's something that could be overcome if I had some experience with him.
The notion that these two people are interacting in some kind of vacuum, they're not acting under divine law, they're not acting under natural law. The framework of law is something which has evolved over time.
Let's get one thing out of the way. The store owner broke the law. I think we can all agree on that. But this trial is about income inequality. Did any of you really know what that meant before this?
There is a tendency, I will grant you, in the economics textbook to say that the price or the wage should be exempt from this framework of laws. You can make the argument for changing the law. Nevertheless, the law is there, and if I violate the law by infringing on its terms, then there are some consequences.
While he broke the law by paying you less than the legal minimum wage, he also helped facilitate the income inequality in this country.
Objection, leading the witness.
It is true that across ideologies, people are concerned about income inequality. And I think they're concerned about it for different reasons. But I think that there is this deeper, real notion of this kind of toxic, parasitic relationship between corporations and state or political actors.
Now, I'm sure all of you hate those Wall Street bankers who influenced our government, helped them rewrite laws that only benefited them.
And I think Americans have real concerns about this idea that people who are already wealthy might be able to have more latitude over political favoritism than others. And I think those are legitimate concerns.
We all dislike inequality when it's a result of a rigged system, because it's just not fair.
I think a healthy society allows people to make big accumulations, encourages them to go after them, but then creates a system where it's normal for them to pass into a semi-public domain. And rather than having generation upon generation of wealthy offspring and descendants control the politics of the country.
The job of the state is to protect property. One of those things is my right to choose how to work. For many people, for the state to violate my autonomy, my rights, is on its face unfair. There's no consequence that justifies that.
My client didn't rig the system for his personal gain. He took a risk. He took a risk and he offered the plaintiff an opportunity. An opportunity that both men agreed would make each other better off.
One of the most fundamental rights is to be able to enter into voluntary contracts with other people who are our peers, who are our equals. And if we can enter into contracts where there's no coercion, the state has no business interfering with that.
Someone needs to protect workers from being exploited.
Why can't they just be free to make up their own minds?
You can't have an economic way of thinking about the world without an underlying set of values that drive that thinking. There are economic realities that pervade our lives. We live in a world of scarcity. Incentives incentives matter. People are self-interested.
A criticism that's often made of the libertarian approach, and I think the criticism's not entirely unfair. There's too much of an emphasis on the impersonal action of markets and too little concerns about human beings and the way that they interact as people. We find ways to cooperate just because we're human beings. So markets as a space serve a social purpose.
We want autonomy over our lives. We want to be able to make choices. We want to be free to say, I'm going to go to graduate school, or I'm not going to go to college at all. I'm going to start a business, or I'm going to be a stay-at-home mom. These are the choices of our lives.
Minimum wage removes the first rung of that ladder and expects somebody else to pay for it. Is that fair?
And if we're denied that by minimum wage laws and other things that prevent people from participating in the market, we're denying them something that's a really important part of being human.
And I think for libertarians who understand the economic way of thinking, we have the most powerful analytical tool that if we care about ordinary people and their ability to make decisions and have autonomy over their lives, freedom is the only way.